Hi, this is Justin Hibbard, and thank you for joining me for Why Catholic, my podcast about the what and why of Catholicism. While normally these episodes are about 17 minutes in length and focus on a topic related to Catholicism, every so often I like to interview someone who is living out their Catholic faith in a unique way. If you know my story, which I've linked to in the show notes, you know that I grew up in various Protestant circles and was a Baptist pastor for 11 years. My journey to Catholicism began with a search for goodness. I really was looking for a transformational church, and one of the key components I was searching for was a church that prioritized charity. During COVID, so many people were losing their jobs and their livelihood, and so I asked, is there a church out there that is giving boldly to people in need? In one of my first Sundays attending a Catholic Mass, I learned that the local parish had given $400,000 to families in need. And I said, this is the kind of mission I want to financially support. Since that time, that parish, St. Mary of the Assumption Catholic Church in Park City, Utah, has not only become my home parish, but is also my place of employment. It is a vibrant Catholic community in the heart of the Wasatch Back. And since COVID, their charitable work has only grown. For this episode, I invited Father Christopher Gray, the pastor of St. Mary's, and Maria Villar, the St. Mary's director of charity, to share their vision, mission, and process for cultivating a charitable church community. In case you're listening to this episode, this can also be found in video format on our Why Catholic YouTube channel. Here's my interview with Father Gray and Maria Villar. Father Gray, my first question is for you. Tell me a little bit about the evolution of this charity program that you have at St. Mary's. How did this all begin, and how did it develop to what it is today?
For many years, St. Mary's has been charitable in this location. But I think there's also a personal aspect here, which I think is really important, especially in making decisions and kind of trying to structure things. When I was a young person around the Cathedral of Madeleine, there was a program called the Good Samaritan Program, which was interesting, and it was good. It was a really good intuition that right at the church, there should be a means of being able to distribute charity and be open to people. Now, that program had some limitations. When people came to the door with whatever their need was, they got a sandwich, which I made many of. Other people also made many, many, many more, but there were lots of sandwiches, and that's what you got. And maybe you got something more than a sandwich, and maybe you got something that you actually needed, and maybe a sandwich wasn't it. And so as a young person, when I'm thinking, 12, 13, 14, seeing this happen, and my mom was one of the volunteers who was there, answering the door and people coming to the church and getting a sandwich, it was like, this is insufficient. This is profoundly not enough for what is needed. Fast forward a bit. With St. Mary's, we've always had a perspective of charity toward others. And when I became pastor here, there were already several mechanisms available. For example, the food bank, and also the various charitable work that we did on the ad hoc basis of people coming to us with a need and being able to help them, along with the various things that the Interfaith Council does in Park City, specifically the gas vouchers, meal vouchers, again, very basic kinds of things. And so drawing upon my experience, drawing upon needs that are very visible, drawing upon all of these things, one of the ideas that I had for being pastor at St. Mary's is that someday I would like to have essentially kind of like a social work idea somewhere in this organization, to be able to be with people, accompany them, give them more than just a sandwich, which taken in an allegorical way means pretty much any kind of, well, you need this, but this is what we got, so we're going to go for what we got. Any kind of thing which is insufficient, but really to be able to more personally, more effectively assist those people who come to us with needs, which are often quite complex. So that's the genesis in my mind. There's lots of different people working at different times in different places, trying their best to be able to meet the needs. And I'm really very, very happy with what we're able to do right now, especially with Maria.
One of the things that made a real impression on me on me as I was considering Catholicism, because one of the things I was looking for was I was like, is there a church out there that's doing charity? I think, like you said, there are churches that, you know, dip into charity here and there and give out the sandwiches, but is there a church that's really committed to charity? And I came one Sunday during COVID, or towards, I guess, the middle or end of COVID, and they announced that they had given, the church had given some lump sum to families in need. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that developed?
Over the years, especially during COVID, we already had a mechanism to be able to offer rental assistance. During COVID, there was a conversation that was, are we going to keep doing this, knowing that there will be many people who will be needing it? And the answer was a resounding yes. My answer was yes, to the great expense. Yes, as much as we possibly can. It doesn't matter. This is the most important thing. Which I don't think is necessarily the most common response among churches during COVID.
Mhm.
We thankfully were in a position to be able to do this. There's always a lot of structural work that goes into the administration of church. And again, it's very much based on many people coming together to work together for a greater good. But especially in my position, there's a really particular kind of ministry in being able to focus. And that was a moment that I'm very, very grateful for, to really lean in to charity, as we were also leaning into a couple other things, which made, honestly, that time of COVID a time of many blessings, honestly.
Mhm. Yeah. I know that was a hard time for a lot of people, losing their jobs and things like that. And yeah, so I know that just that just stood out to me, and I thought, this is a church I want to give money to. This is what I want to give resources to, a church that is doing this. So
And
yeah,
to
I
be
thought that
clear,
was
it was also, yes, we are going to give hundreds of thousands of dollars of rental assistance, which wasn't just about the renters. It was also about the landlords who have essentially a business to run. And if that business collapses, then we
mm,
are in a much worse situation. So it's not a small amount by any means. It's actually a staggering amount to me
yeah,
personally, who's, my personal finances don't get anywhere near that per year. But this is also what is needed to begin to meet the need in this place.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I know one of the big turning points here in this charity work is hiring Maria. Can you talk a little bit about the impetus for bringing on a director of charity?
For several years, I've wanted to explore this position, and I had been thinking about a variety of people to bring on board for this kind of work. The timing wasn't quite right, but the opportunity presented itself. And it was maybe a little bit earlier than I had kind of foreseen actually going into this. But again, it was an opportunity. It was providential that we were able to make this connection. And it was really cool
Mhm.
in a very blessed way. God blessed this. And I think that counts for a lot.
Awesome. Maria, I'd like to speak with you for a few minutes. Can you tell me a little bit about your background as a social worker or caseworker and what got you into this career?
Uh-huh. Yeah, bueno, my life into social work is mostly very personal, right? I'm an immigrant myself. I'm originally from Cuba. I arrived to this country with almost nothing, $300 in my pocket, the first time that I came to the United States. I was a single mom.
Mm,
I also lived some personal experience, domestic violence. I was a victim of crime. But all those experiences actually form and shape the person that I'm today. And then it gives me the skills, it gives me the tool, um, in my work experience, I worked from early childhood all the way to hospice care. So I was able to see life in all their dimensions, and all the beauty and all the stages in life. And then now I'm pursuing my master in social work. And it's beautiful because this is going to complement everything that I personally experience, my empathy, to all these other tools that are going to allow me to better serve my community and the clients that we receive here in St. Mary's every single day. So that's
I
how.
forgot. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I forgot to tell you, my great grandmother was from Cuba. So, and my great grandfather, Father Gray, was from Spain. So had that connection.
So
well, that's beautiful, Maria. That probably speaks to your ability to empathize with people and to see them at all the different stages of life.
Yes, when I see them and their struggle, I realize that, different variations, but I was there at some point. And that makes you be especially empathetical to another individual that is struggling, and make that connection as a peer is very unique. So it builds trust, actually, when there is someone that comes to me and I can validate their feelings and say, hey, I was there. It must be hard. Yes. So it's really very unique, and it's a blessing in my life to be able to combine. I think everything was shaped to the point that I end up with all of this knowledge that allow me to better serve the most vulnerable individuals in our communities right now. So I'm very blessed.
It's amazing how personal experience matters so much in this. Not just on the side of one who needs assistance, but also on the side of seeing how assistance is given. Certainly, it's important for me vocationally. And I think there's a very strong parallel here between you and I, Maria.
Oh, yeah, it's another way to see things. We probably were exposed to experience that no one should, but we build that resilience from it. And then here we are now, sharing our knowledge with others, so showing them that they can thrive as well. So,
well said. Well said. I think a lot of churches may feel overwhelmed in maybe starting a charity program or thinking, I know as a Protestant pastor, people would call me on the phone or come to the door, and I was like, we don't have anything to give. But Maria, you have taken a very different approach to charity in that you're working with a number of organizations in the community. Can you talk about that some more?
Yes. So since January, actually, I was checking the number this morning, and we, up to today, we serve 273 families. Saying that is impossible to do it alone. It's impossible, especially if we want to get to the root of the problem, if we want to actually offer a more permanent solution. Our charitable funds are very limited. We are just a church, right? That has a strength because it's unrestricted funds, which means that we don't need to have all the ground restrictions that maybe some other organizations need to face when they are accessing state funds. But also it limits what we be able to receive to offer our clients, because it's limited only to private donations, personal donations, and small grants like one that we received recently from Park City Community Foundation. However, what we have here allow us to provide emergency critical financial assistance. Saying that is that we are the frontier. We are the first ones that can jump into a critical situation immediately. And that's what other organizations actually can see on us, and they come to us. So the majority of the referrals are coming from other organizations, mental health providers, people health clinic, organization that offer some type of training for people being able to access the workforce system again. But saying that, also what we are doing here is so beautiful, because then we tackle that situation, we buy that little time that we need to actually connect the family or the crime victim or the domestic violence victim and the children to move into a safe situation, while there is other systems that can take in place to offer a more permanent solution so that family can actually thrive in life and be successful. It's very, very difficult for an individual that is experiencing domestic violence to move out of that unsafe situation. And knowing that St. Mary's is a place where they can feel that they can be supported is very unique. So that's what we have right now.
I was struck by we had a recommitment to give dinner, a couple months ago, I guess now. And we invited a number of organizations from the community to come and talk. And these were things I didn't even realize were going on. But one of the things that struck me was the comment that, and I can't remember the organization or the person that said it, but it was like, in the past, we felt like we were competing for money. But now it's like with St. Mary's is like the hub with all of these organizations working together to provide assistance for families. Can you both speak a little bit more to that?
Mm-hmm. So yes, so what happened is, as I mentioned, our emergency fund is something that allow anyone in crisis to be able to reach out. It's limited what we can offer, but at the same time, is that respite care that they actually need at that moment, so they can move on into something else. That comment came from Jen O'Brien, and it was Summit County Clubhouse. And they specialize in offer assistance to individuals that are struggling with mental health conditions and disabilities. And they are getting them back into the workforce services. And actually, we also have homeless individuals that have been able to move to transitional units, housing, getting that time for them to be able to be successful, to move to a more permanent housing solution and move out of the street. And that's what we are doing here. So we are the one that opened that door for them the first month. And after that, there is a whole system in place with other organizations that are going to take over to offer that more permanent solution for that client. Mm-hmm. So yes, when anyone is actually coming to us to donate, they are not only donating to the meeting, the donation is going to all those other organizations that we partner with, serving their clients and all the individuals, because at the end, it's just different organizations, but serving the same individuals. So at the end, we are all working together as one.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this program in St. Mary's. Mm-hmm.
Looking at it from a different perspective, we spend a substantial amount of time talking with our parishioners, our donors. And one of the things that we ask them about is, what other organizations do you support? Among them, some of them also support other nonprofits in this area. Some of them support alumni associations of their university somewhere else. There's a very interesting smattering. I think that with the way in which we are doing charity, which is helping people directly and allowing individuals to be able to navigate the many resources that are available, working with the providers also, we're able to do an amazing amount of work right here. So when people give to charity at St. Mary's, they may not be the usual donors who give to other organizations here that do that work, but they are also being able to provide for the people here, which is, I think kind of the back question for what other organizations do you give to, which is what is important to you? And at a very fundamental level, I think that pretty much everyone can agree that people are important. People matter. Certainly, this is evangelical in its perspective. This is very Christian in its outlook. People matter. And the way in which we do that isn't always super clear. Like, you want to help people, so these people asked you for help, so you help them, and then you're kind of checking it off the list. It's not super direct. With St. Mary's, it is very direct. And that's a really special thing. So coming to this point that Jen made about we're not competing, but we're working together, it's also about the people involved. And it's not just the clients, the people who receive services, but also those who are living out their Christian life. We are working together in that. And then again, that is really beautiful and wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something else that I want to share, and just to add to what Father Gray just say, just imagine, for example, when we work in partnership with Peace House, we work with Peace House almost, every single week, if I'm not telling you every single day, right? So what happened here is we may have a client, we may have this single mother with 5 children, 7 children. And when we place that single mother in a transitional unit at Peace House come to us because they cannot pay themselves because of those grant restrictions that I told you before. So then what happened is we are able to be the one that are helping this family to move out of that super unsafe situation and thrive based on their income, sometimes for many months, basically, because the transitional unit are very, very affordable, but then they cannot pay themselves. So they need to come to us in order to get that cover. So that's the beauty of us being seen from these other organizations as that emergency rapid assistance that nobody else can offer. And it's very unique and very rewarding.
For sure. Absolutely. Marie, you've hinted at some of the issues that you face with the people that you help. I think there's probably a lot of people in Park City, they live very affluent lives and they don't see these needs of poverty and domestic abuse and things like that. Could you share maybe some of the things that you see and the needs that people have that come to you?
Yes, so I'm telling you, priority are single mother with children, we senior with disabilities, those that are struggling with any type of mental health condition. We are tackling food insecurity. When we are Catholics, right? So we are here to serve our neighbor and welcome them and see Jesus in every single face that knock our door. And basically, that's what we are doing. We are saving lives. Sometimes people come to us struggling with a hard decision or considering maybe I want to end my life. I cannot handle this suffering any longer. But the reality is that then we host that conversation when they actually realize it's not that I don't want to live. It's that I want to have a life without that type of suffering. It's that I want to learn how I can be successful and move on above all these traumas that I may experience. And then this is what we are. We are that place where they feel that this is safe. So, well, basically, it's mostly our community referrals, but yes, mostly single mother and victims of crime, victims of trafficking. They can come to us and they trust, and that's so unique. That this is a sanctuary, as fathers say. He wants to be one Well, I can tell you right now, we are one. Any fear that anyone may have, they can come to us and they can tell us, and we can safely connect them with the services that they may need. So,
And to your point, Justin, it's not just a matter of social background that makes people blind to the difficulties in other people's lives. That's just universal. Nobody can look at anyone and say, they're doing great. They're suffering tremendously. It doesn't work that way. Obviously, there are some times when, sure, you can notice more than others, but that's not always apparent. And this idea of sanctuary implies that there has to be some way that we can actually meet with people and actually address needs as they are being described to us and as we learn more about. And you can't do that unless you actually get to know them and spend time with them and really allow the heart to be opened. And it's not a one-way street on that. And this is, again, the reason why it's so important to have a focus here and not merely yet another task that has to happen in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, there's a lot of talk about immigration in our country with the recent election and things like that. And I don't mean to get too political or anything like that, but I know that there are people that are passionate on both sides of the issue of, hey, we should be more welcoming to immigrants versus, hey, we need to really crack down on illegal immigration. How would you respond to someone who might say something like, why is the church helping and aiding illegal immigrants or undocumented workers, to put it more precisely?
So what I can tell you about that, Justin, is we welcome the person, the human being, despite any legal status, anything that their background, nothing. This is helping human beings. We are helping our neighbor. We are welcoming the stranger, right? And that's what we are called to do. And something I'm going to share right now about this is, the Holy Spirit works in different ways, right? And this morning, this is something very unique that happens to me this morning, right? So I personally have a condition that is polycystic kidney disease. It's a genetic condition. So I follow all these other podcasts about kidney transplant and different things, right? And then I have this article this morning that I was reading about bioethics. And then they were talking about all the barriers that undocumented individuals may face in order to access and be listed as an organ recipient. And while I was reading all of this, I was thinking, oh, Lord. One of the processes that we have here in St. Mary's when people apply for assistance is we require a picture ID. And some of the people that may be in this status, right, that they don't have a legal status in the United States, what they have is something that is called driving privilege. Well, I'm going to tell you something. During all this time that I have been the person that is processing all of these applications, I didn't receive one driving privilege where the person is not listed as an organ donor. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is if they are willing to give us the gift of life, even knowing all the barriers that they may face to become a recipient of an organ at some point in their life if they need one. There is a lot of barriers because what happened is the cost post-transplant is so expensive, right? The anti-rejection medication need to be taken for life. There's so many things involved in this, but disqualify many of these individuals to be able to receive an organ at some point in life. But they are giving it to us without even thinking. That's love. So why in the world charity should be different? why we need to condition charity at all based on a legal status or not. These are just human beings, and we are here to help them and see Jesus in every single person that knocked this door. So that's my answer to you.
I have never thought about it that way, with the as them being donors, and that's mind blowing. So thank you for sharing that perspective. I was watching All Quiet on the Western Front the other day, which it's like from the these young Nazi soldiers' perspective. And one thing that struck me was, you see the Red Cross helping these Nazi soldiers who have been injured or wounded in war. And I think to myself, there's a lot of conflicts where in the world where we kind of want to take sides, but the Red Cross or some other charity organizations, their job is not to take sides. Their job is to go in and to save individuals. And I think when I think about this issue, I think, first of all, it's a extremely complicated and complex issue, as you being an immigrant would know. And it's not cut and dry. There is no get in line. There is no line for people. And but whether they're here legally or whether they're here as undocumented or whether they're waiting for some status and kind of in a limbo, they still have needs, right?
Yeah, and medical conditions sometimes, even crises, if someone get a stroke or a heart attack, it's not that it's going to happen just to this individual or that individual. It could happen to anyone. So that's what I'm saying. We're serving human beings. That's what we're doing as St. Mary's. In general. Yeah.
Maria, as you look ahead 5 years or so, what's your vision for St. Mary's as a hub of charity?
I just want to expand it. I see that we are going to expand all these partnerships that we have right now, even more with our community, and continue growing and creating this awareness and disclosing maybe a little bit of what's going on in our community, opening the eyes of everybody so they can realize that even when you don't see it as a daily basis, there is poverty that is around us, that we can make a difference and help. And I can see St. Mary's as the catalysis, right? To create that awareness in Park City and be that center for education and skills and so many other things that we can offer so we can help people to thrive. And that's what I really want to see. The housing crisis is not going to get any better anytime soon, right? The area median income in Park City I think it's around $124,000. So there is not enough units to rent, and affordable housing is very into more units to buy and not to rent because the cost that is associated to all of that, and but it's not going to get any better. We are seeing so many difficult situations that are not humane at all. People living, sharing mattresses, what they need to pay is outrageous, between $600 to $900 per person to share a mattress. This is happening. And apartments that are overcrowded. And then the Olympics are coming. It's going to be beautiful, but it's also going to be very challenging for those low-income families where they are going to live. And that's why I see St. Mary's at that place where we are creating all that awareness so we can plan in advance as a community in general, so we can prevent crisis from happening, because prevention is the key, in my opinion, and we can do that. Yeah. Right now, we are working so hard in suicide prevention because it's a reality. And And we are doing it from here as well, in partnership with the health department and so many other organizations. The mobile crisis unit. I mean, so, and I just see that growing and growing. It's just very unique and very beautiful. So that's my vision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Park City in particular has, I think, maybe not a unique challenge, but definitely a challenge in that it's a destination place with lots of it's a hospitality industry with hotels and restaurants and ski resorts and things like that. But then, but it's so expensive to live here. And so there's just not enough housing. I know they talked about this with the employees that they bring in to work at these ski resorts. They don't have affordable housing for them, or they have to live in kind of dorm room situations. And so you're saying too that not only is there that challenge, but then there's people that are paying $600 to $800 a month just to share a mattress with a stranger. Is that right?
Yes,
Hmm.
it's a reality, and it's not safe. So by creating that awareness, maybe at some point, together as a community, right, we can bring that policy change that need to happen in place so we can actually find more affordable solutions for those families. But if you don't know about it, then what you can do? It's not that people doesn't want to change the situation and people doesn't want to actually help, that this type of things are not surrounding us, not around us. It's just that many of our community members, they don't even know about it. So that's why creating that awareness is so important, and be that center where we can promote that, and partnership with other organizations that can find more permanent solutions is so important. Working hand by hand with Jesus and our community.
Absolutely. Father Gray, I'd like to ask you the same question. What do you, if you look ahead maybe 5 years or so, what's your hope and your vision for St. Mary's as a hub of charity?
I hope that, in a final analysis, that we can transcend the need for many things. That is always the desire. What is a great Christmas gift? Peace on earth, indeed. And knowing that these things happen very, very slowly, I hope that we can continue to build relationships, build up our network, and that when people here find something that they need, find themselves in need, that this can continue. The Lord himself tells us that the poor will always be with us. And that is an important perspective. It means that we need to continue what we are doing, and to continue to do it like anything else, better over time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last question, Father Gray. If and actually I'll open this up to you as well, Maria, but if a church approached you and said, "Hey, we really love what you're doing at St. Mary's. How do we get started?" Or what advice would you give them?
It's really hard to think about the things that churches really do unless you're actually in it. So a lot of the time people are kind of surprised that we have to do the things that any other physical plant thing in the world has to do, like pay electricity bills and other utilities and snow removal and maintenance and
Right.
all of those things that we really super take for granted and think like, well, it's a church that doesn't. Oh, but yes, it's a big part. And this is the hesitance, because very often an organization like a church is doing its very, very best to kind of stay on top of the mountain of the many kind of very present needs of the physicality of the place, while also trying to, at least in some way, do the gospel stuff and the holy things and worship and all the rest of that. And so between the two of those, we have a lot of, well, necessary blindness to other things. I hope that more and more pastors will feel courageous to be able to take on projects like this, which are beyond the merely needed to survive as an organization realm. It's obviously there's a lot of kind of back and forth that goes on in a conversation like this, and it's a hard one. But the most important baseline message is God wills it. God will provide. It is a matter of faith. And the church has a very special place in our society now and always as being a place that welcomes those who are downcast or otherwise in a bad situation. I mean, this is also kind of the prophecy of Isaiah that the Lord brings out to proclaim liberty for captives, a jubilee, and all the rest of it. By the way, it's the Jubilee year. It's a good thing to do for the Jubilee. But I mean, this is what the Lord does. And as ministers of Christ, this is what we must do.
Maria, anything to add to that?
It's taking action. That's what we are doing, and I really encourage other churches to consider it. It's very unique. The need is there everywhere, and someone need to actually take the initiative to address it. And it's possible. As Father say, God will provide. He does. I see it myself in my personal life. I mean, he took my hand and walked with me out of situations that I couldn't do it without him. So the same way he's making it possible for us here at St. Mary's, so we can help other people to take his hand and walk out of those unsafe situations as well. So yes, it's a reality, and it's possible. We just need to do that first step. It's the hardest one. And then everything will unfold in front of you so beautifully.
Yeah. Helping one person at a time, right?
One at a time, and you will be surprised how much you can accomplish. I'm telling you, doing one at a time here at St. Mary's, we are already helping 273 families, no individuals, families, 273 today.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for being here, Father Gray and Maria. Thank you so much for your work in charity, your commitment to charity, and for sharing your perspectives today. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
What a powerful mission St. Mary's is on. It's amazing to hear not only about all the lives they're helping, but the ways that the parish is working with local organizations to serve those in need. In the show notes, I've provided a few links where you can learn more about St. Mary's charitable work, as well as a link to give financially. Let me once again thank Father Gray and Maria Villar for joining me today for this special episode, and a special thanks to you for joining me here on Why Catholic. God bless you. Thank you for joining me for Why Catholic. Be sure to subscribe to Why Catholic wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also subscribe to my Substack site and get the next episode in your email inbox. As a subscriber, you get a special discount code to the Why Catholic Etsy store. If you've been blessed by this podcast and you're feeling generous, there's also a way to financially support it, and patrons get some extra perks. To become a free subscriber or a patron, just go to whycatholic.substack.com/subscribe. Also join me on Instagram at whycatholicpodcast, all one word. Thanks again for listening. My name is Justin Hibbard, and this is Why Catholic. God bless you.